Good morning. This is Krys J with SugarlessTea-V, and this is your morning cup of tea. Today's topic is daddy issues. I am in a place to be able to talk about it without getting or crying because I've overcome it. My mom and my dad married, I believe, right after I was born. And my mom was married to my dad for 23 years. In the process of the marriage, my dad abused alcohol and drugs, and he wasn't a very nice person. And this, by all means, is not an attack on my dad because I genuinely, truly love my dad. And I'm able to talk about him because I've overcome and I'm in a place that I'm healed from the situation. My dad wasn't always the best person in the world. He, of course, when you abuse drugs and alcohol, those spirits tend to take over, and sometimes there is abuse, and abuse happens. And so I watched my dad be very mean and hateful to my mom and use profanity and degrade her and down her. And then some of those times my dad would be abusive to me. So I grew up a very angry young girl. I remember at 14 years old, the last time he tried to whip me, I threatened him, and I had so much anger in me. And then I told him if he touched me again, what I would do. So fast forward in my life, I wouldn't say that I was promiscuous, but I can say that I have looked for love in all the wrong places, and I've dated guys that weren't so good for me, or as some would say, similar to my dad, and got married. And I made up in my mind that my husband wasn't going to treat me how my daddy treated my mom. So I became the abuser. Ended up losing my husband, got a divorce, got through that. And as time progressed, I still started going through things. And every now and then throughout my life, in my 20s and my 30s, it will be a sharp pain in my chest. And I would always try to avoid it because I had suppressed my childhood. And I remember one day going through riding down the freeway, and I just broke down crying. And I'm like, God, what did I do to where I couldn't have my dad in my life? You know, what did I do for him to be so mean and hateful to me? And I never really got an answer. So fast forward, at 30, maybe 30 years old, I got word that my dad was kind of sick and that we needed to go see about him. Well, the first thing I come to mind was when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, he wasn't there for me. So why should I be there for him? So I was like, no, it ain't for me to do. He on his own. So I go on 2 years later. Several other people's like, your dad is really not doing well. You need to go see about him. And so I remember like it was yesterday, I went in my sister's bathroom, and all of a sudden I just broke down crying because that sharp pain when I was going through on that freeway came back. And I'm like, God, when I needed my dad when I was 13, he was not there for me. All I wanted him to do was hug me, kiss me, tell me I was pretty, because of course, you know, we all as women sometimes struggle with self-image. And, you know, they say the first man that's supposed to show you how a man's supposed to treat you is your dad. So a part of me blamed him for the reason why I had went through so many abusive relationships and why I was in dead-end relationships, because I didn't have that father figure in my life. And so I went in the bathroom and I broke down crying, and I'm like, God, why do you want to do me like this? What have I done? You know, I'm living my life. I'm just now getting to a place to where I'm really happy with myself for real. And so God said, if you do this for me, if you step outside of yourself and you go see about your daddy, I promise I'll bless you. So I go on, I'm like, okay, I'm going to see about my dad. I went over there, took him to the hospital, and I moved in with my dad and took care of him for 3 months by myself. At that time, I didn't have a lot of people come help me, and I think it bothered me until I got over and I overcame that part. And I kind of got to be around my dad. And in that place of taking care of him, like I had to wipe my dad. I cooked for my dad every day, breakfast. I mean, I was there with him, had to clean him and change his clothes and take his food, clean the house. And in that process, I got to see some some parts of my dad that I began to feel sorry for him. And then my dad started telling me some stories about some of the things that he went through as a child. And right then and there, I realized that I was a product of someone that had been abused. And so all he knew was abuse. And so that was his way of showing me that he loved me, was through that. Even though I didn't get the relationship that I wanted from my dad, I got my healing by forgiving my dad, because I, at that time, realized that that little girl that I was holding on to that pain from him was the same little boy that he was, and he was holding on to his pain from what he went through. So I thought it was going to be this big, oh, my dad was going to come and apologize to me and tell me, oh, I'm sorry. And we gained this great relationship. But it was in my love for my dad unconditionally when he didn't earn the love that healed me. So in my process of giving something unselfishly and being there for someone that was not there for me, that's where I got my healing. And I can say today, without a doubt, that I truly love my dad, because I see my dad as the little girl that I was. Sometimes we're waiting on that apology that we're never going to get. We're waiting on that hug or that support that we're never going to get. Sometimes our healing doesn't come from those apologies, or our healing doesn't come from them coming in and being that dad we wanted them to be, because the reality of it is we're grown women. You're 32 years old. You can never go back to that little girl. Sometimes it's you get your healing out of loving them and forgiving them, even if they don't ask for an apology. So my challenge for you today is, yeah, he hurt you. Yeah, he should have been there for you. I'm not making excuses for him, because I'm not making excuses for my dad. But in order for you to be free, in order for you to heal, you got to forgive that person no matter what. The same forgiveness, the same grace and mercy that God has so graciously given you when you've done wrong, when you've made mistakes. It's the same grace and mercy that you have to offer to your dad or your mother or whoever that person is that has harmed you or hurt you. I'm not trying to take away from what they done, but what I want you to do is be free. And sometimes we find freedom in forgiving them even when they don't want to apologize. So again, my sister, my brother, find it in your heart to forgive. It's the hardest thing to do, but oh my God, it's so freeing when you're able to forgive. This is Krys J with SugarlessTeaV, and that's your morning cup of tea. Bye-bye.